pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for calling me.
Okay, roll call please, Carol.
Steve Beardsley,
Present.
Mike Bright,
Present.
Brant Fuller,
Present.
Joe Palmer is absent, Megan Sheets, Clarence Worthen,
Present.
Eric Woods.
Okay, we have the minutes from the February 28th regular meeting.
I'll make a motion, we approve the council minutes from February 28th.
Second.
Roll call please, Carol.
Steve Beardsley,
Aye.
Mike Bright,
Aye.
Brant Fuller,
Aye.
Megan Sheets, Clarence Worthen,
Aye.
Eric Woods.
Okay, were there any public comments? Nothing? Okay, thank you. I'm gonna recess the council meeting right now at 7:04 for a public hearing on ordinance number 22-03, and that's for an additional appropriation, and this is concerning our ARPA money. So I'll open the public hearing. Do I have any questions, comments, or anything from the public, or? Okay. I will close the public hearing and reopen the council meeting at 7:05. Next on the agenda is ordinance number 22-03, and this is on second reading. Carol, do you want to tell us a little bit about the additional appropriation?
Yes, the funds that we are receiving through the ARPA program from the federal government have been, half of it was distributed to us last August, and we appropriated that into 21, and we have to reappropriate the funds again in this tax year, or excuse me, in this fiscal year, so that we can use them. And we went ahead and, with the blessing of the State Board of Accounts, appropriated the entire amount so that we don't have to go through the process again. Are there any questions?
I'll make a motion to pass ordinance 22.
I have a question. When we appropriate this, are we putting it someplace for a specific purpose?
It has to be in a fund by itself. That's the way it's set up.
Okay,
If you'll look on there, we're just gonna make it into two different categories right now. It's not broken down into each one of those things. We would have to amend the plan. And then when we amend that ARPA plan, then that's when she could set up those separate appropriations, which I talked to her about that one for today. Like a pool appropriation and
yes,
police station. Yes, once those are set up. Right now, we're just doing it in the general categories, supplies or other services and
Okay.
charges.
Within the ARPA fund, which is what we have to do per state and federal regulations.
okay,
And that money can't be moved out of that fund. It has to be used directly out of that fund.
okay.
So, okay. Need a motion?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Steve Beardsley.
Aye.
Mike Bright.
Aye.
Brant Fuller.
Aye.
Megan Sheets.
Aye.
Clarence Worthen.
Aye.
Eric Woods.
Aye.
Okay, ordinance number 22-03 passes on second reading. Next on the agenda is resolution number 22-02, a resolution transferring funds from the Cumulative Capital Improvement Fund number 401 to City General Fund number 101. Do you want to talk to us about that, Carol?
So yes, twice a year we receive money basically from cigarette tax. And this has been a common practice of the city for the last few years to transfer it into the general fund annually. We're not able to do that last year. And so that's actually 2 years worth of those tax dollars.
I think we've probably done this, what, 3 or 4 years ago, maybe longer. We decided we used to appropriate that fund, and you could just use that for certain expenses. But then also the state came out later so that you can transfer that straight into city general. So when we do our revenues for the year, when we set up our budget, we say that is gonna be coming into there as part of the projections of revenue.
I'll make the motion, we pass resolution 2202.
I'll second that.
Roll call, please.
Steve Beardsley,
Aye.
Mike Bright,
Aye.
Brant Fuller,
Aye.
Megan Sheets,
Aye.
Clarence Worthing,
Aye.
Eric Woods.
Okay, resolution number 22-02 passes. Next on the agenda is resolution number 22-03, a resolution for the Common Council of the City of Frankfort, Indiana, amending a prior resolution approving execution of lease and related matters. Rich Starkey is here with us this evening, so you can explain this to us.
Absolutely. Thanks. Rich Starkey with law firm of Barnes and Thornburg. So as you are probably aware, we're moving towards actually closing for the pool bonds. And as we've gotten together with all the financial people involved in the transaction, we had a big conference call last week about all of this to try to make sure we were all on schedule. So this, as you know, this has also been going on for a couple of years, right? So we have resolutions from last year and the year before, and this is amending a resolution. The reason we're amending a prior resolution that you adopted is because since it has been delayed so much, the back end of the TIF area actually expires before we can really use what we all need. So because of that, on the TIF side, we have to make these revenues junior to other TIF obligations that you have with IU Health and there's another bond issue we did for a company, I can't think of the name.
Fontana.
Fontana, that was it, yeah.
Was it Fontana?
Fontana.
Fontana. Mhm.
So this resolution amends the prior resolution you adopted that basically said we're pledging all the TIF. So now we're pledging it, all the TIF except on a junior basis to the existing obligations you have, so that it comes second if it had to. And then because of that, we have to amend it so that the local income tax that we're pledging now becomes a senior pledge, and it's actually pledged as opposed to just being available. We actually have to pledge it for bondholders so that they feel confident it's there. And as you will remember, or may or may not remember, there's also a tax backup here on this so that you get a lower interest rate. So the waterfall of revenues is using TIF first, and then using lit, and then using a property tax backup, which we never expect to have to use because we have enough lit really to do it with the junior TIF. So that's what this does, and then the redevelopment commission will at its next meeting kind of confirm this with their own resolution, doing a junior TIF as well. And at this point, we're planning to get a rating on the bonds in about 3 weeks, and then we would actually try to sell the bonds in April and close on April 26th. So that's the pool side.
So it does make a difference, or does it not, on the amount of money that we're gonna use with the TIF funds versus our lit?
It's the same amount.
Same amount
All the
each,
projections are
okay.
all the same. It's just the order in which they get used because of other.
You have to use the TIF funds first, okay. Okay. Anybody have any questions for Rich? Do you have anything else?
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Rich.
Yeah, thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to
I'll move to approve resolution 2203.
Second.
roll call, please.
Steve Beardsley,
Aye.
Mike Bright,
Aye.
Brant Fuller,
Aye.
Megan Sheets,
Aye.
Clarence Worthing,
Aye.
Eric Woods.
Okay, next we have old business. Does anyone have, oh, you leaving? Okay, thank you, Rich. See you soon. Old business. Does anyone have anything under old business? Okay, under new business, I had mentioned maybe we might talk a little bit about the ARPA funds tonight and how we're gonna use those. I don't know that we're ready really for a discussion on that. I wondered what you would think about doing that during a work session at the last meeting in March.
Sounds good.
You know, because we have already put the plan in place, we have an ordinance, but there's gonna have to be some amendments. Do you amend that by ordinance, or do we do it with a resolution?
My recollection is that it was by resolution.
Okay, so we can amend that by resolution, okay.
Mayor, do you think we have enough information at this point in time to start that annexation capital needs assessment at that meeting too? At least get a jump start on it, or you feel we need to push that back in?
You know, I don't know. Megan, you met with that fire committee. Matt's here as well. What do you think? Do you think we're ready to at least have some preliminary discussions?
Yes, I think preliminary, I guess at this point, not too early to start those discussions, that we can start things, I think, start the discussions.
Discuss, because, you know, at some point we are gonna have to have a fire station out there. We're gonna need more manpower, not only from fire, but police. I don't know about street department, but there's just several things we have to start looking at, and it'll be here before we know it.
Can we get copies of the previously submitted capital needs that we had during the annexation process? Just so we have some first copies of that to compare to.
I should have those.
Okay, okay. Because we've had several discussions on that. So that's what I was thinking. We could talk about that, talk about the ARPA funds and how we want to use those. We set out 5 different ways that, you know, we thought we could use it, but they were pretty general. So now we may want to look more closely at that when we amend it and itemize what we think we're going to use those funds for. So if you want to put that down, then we'll go ahead and have work session.
And that's on the
28th.
If any of the other counselors have anything that we'd like to see discussed at that, should we contact Carol? Or, I mean, I'd like us all to have the opportunity to, if we have something in mind that we think ought to be part of that meeting, to present it.
Sure. Call, email, text.
When do you want that by, probably?
That's on the previous Tuesday, so let me look at the dates here.
Yeah. So if you have anything. that you want-
22nd, please, would be a great time for me to get those.
Something else. Kimberly tell you, oh, the coffee and coffee.
Coffee call on that Jason, might want to talk about meeting.
Yes, I'll have to talk about that. Okay, we're gonna have another coffee and convo with myself and my department heads at Gym City this Thursday at 2 o'clock. And the public's invited to come in if they have any comments or anything you wanna talk about. I don't see Bart here, but I think it's the 24th of this month. There's gonna be a presentation at the library on daffodils, because at Dorner's Park, they planted daffodils. George Dorner furnished all of those bulbs. So anyway, he's having somebody come in, I think from the state daffodil or National Daffodil Society. So we don't have a time yet, but I think it's gonna be really interesting.
And what date?
The 24th, but we don't have a time yet. It's gonna be at the library.
It'll probably be an evening, right?
I would think, but I don't know that for sure.
Okay.
And that's March 24th, correct?
Yes. We have several things coming up. And Jason, would you like to tell us your news today?
Sure.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I met with Reith Riley this afternoon, 1 o'clock, about paving in the city. We're gonna start milling next Monday, a week from today. Probably a 5-day schedule for milling. We have 23 projects. Kimberly's working on the release to get out to media. And then probably it's usually about double the amount of time to pave what we uncover. We cover it back up, but it's good news for the department. It's going to cut down on some of the patching we've had to do so much of in the last month. And I will cover up some of those areas that are in much needed new pavement. So we're going to start on Freeman Street, Elling. I spoke with NDOT over the last week and a half or so about basically the 4 projects over around the 28 section of town, McKinley, Boomer, Nickel Plate, and Short Myrtle. Those 4, I think we're going to be okay there. I don't see any issues unless something would happen to pop up. McKinley for sure we're fine with. There was discussion on Short Myrtle, but I think we're gonna be okay. And those are just, small stretches going south from Walnut to McKinley. But we're gonna start on Freeman kind of, in the eyes of Reith Riley, kind of go clockwise, around, probably over to Eastwood Drive, Outer Drive, Williams Road, and kind of work our way back to the southwest section of town at the very end. Obviously, there's several of them that we're going to be doing. So it's kind of exciting to know that they're going to get to that earlier than later this year. And so I just want to make sure everyone was aware of that, and we'll get that release out as soon as we can. Hopefully, everybody will be cognizant of where they're parking on those days, starting out. Other than that, that's about all I had.
You've been working with NDOT or
On
on the damage that's been done from the detour.
Kinley and Clinton Street, obviously, we all know had a lot of damage done to it. They had contacted us about, they're taking video of those sections of town, and they're gonna get back to us on how they go about repairs. If it's gonna be monetarily, if they're just gonna do the work, what fixes are gonna be done, what repairs are gonna be done. But they needed to know if we wanted it done now or if we wanted it done after phase one was over. And after speaking with Megan and the mayor and Greg and a few councilmen, we decided probably a good idea to, and I thought that from the beginning, is to wait until after phase one is done. On top of that, I've asked them to reevaluate and look really hard at what the detours are going to be for phase two. I've asked them to put some signage up on now around the interstate area to maybe keep traffic going north or south on 65 and now on 421 and stay off 28 at all possible. Obviously, we're going to have truck traffic coming into town because of our industrial park, but anything that doesn't have to come through here, we're trying to keep them away. So we're working on that as well as another an option to see if things can be a little bit different than they were at the beginning of phase one. I'm sure you've noticed down on the east side of Jackson that they've started, that Miller Pipeline started to do some gas work down there, which is very nice to see. Hopefully they can get out ahead of things a little bit when they do the switch over. I'm guessing you're going to see a schedule of the east side of Jackson is not going to be completed this year. It's going to go into next year again. They are talking right now as to where a good stopping point would be once they start on the east side of Jackson, where they can stop and feel comfortable about leaving it and starting back up when the weather gets better again. So we're not going through what we're going through down here on the other side. So a lot of positive things. Hopefully that, obviously going to be the same contractors working on that side as working on this side. It's all one project, but I think they're trying to look a little bit more forward and plan a little bit better than they did in phase two than they did in phase one.
Do I have any questions for Jason?
You have a timeline, Jason, to finish up on phase one?
Phase one, they're thinking sometime in May. That's what I'm hearing. I don't go to every progress meeting. To be honest with you, they're interesting, and there's not a lot of new information that comes through. I am kind of bummed out that we're losing Melissa Holder. She was WSP supervisor, and she's retiring. So she was always good to work with. She was always very businesslike. She held her feet to the fire, and she was always good with us as far as communication goes. But Rich Beaker is going to be the guy that's taking over down there for her. And I've talked to him a couple times, so I'm hoping things like that. She was pleasant to work with, so hopefully that'll continue, that relationship will continue.
That'd be good. But we will miss her.
She's very good.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Jason. Matt, did you have anything this evening? Okay. I will mention that Chief Shoemaker put out his annual report. I don't know if you've seen it yet. It's an outstanding report. He did very well. It's on our Frankfurt website. where else? There's a link in there off of your,
Twitter, Facebook,
yeah, and there's a
Instagram.
link to it off of that. Yeah, it's really nice. So if you guys haven't had an opportunity to look at it, do that. Todd, Ken, you have anything for us tonight?
We're good. Right now, I'm good. I don't know about Ken.
Okay, does anybody else have anything? I'll take a motion.
We're gonna-
Second. I think it's Steve. Herbert.
Mary,
Yeah. Okay, thank you everyone for coming.